Okay, in this video I'm going to show you how to make this white piece of cardstock that I've used already. You can see the little score lines there into this. It's very easy, very quick, and it looks good on boys' cards, men's cards, even women's cards with maybe some fancy dress form or something. Anyway, what you're going to need is cardstock. I used, again, a white 12 by 12. This is all one sheet of 12 by 12 cardstock, and I cut this in half. But you need any kind of paper that you want. You don't have to use a dark base coat. If you had a brown piece of paper, all you'd have to do on that is just put your light coat on top and use it that way. So if you don't use a dark colored paper or another colored paper, you would need a dark color of paint and a light color of acrylic paint. You're going to need paintbrushes, a darker ink. I use StazOn brown and black when I do this technique. And you're going to need a scoreboard, a Martha Stewart scoreboard, a craft mat. I use wax paper right now, and a heating tool. Okay? So the first step that you're going to do is you're going to get one of the paintbrushes, and you're going to paint the paper. If you're not using a dark or a colored cardstock and you're using white, you need to paint the white whatever color you want. I'm using brown. And you just paint it. And it doesn't have to be solid. It doesn't have to be 100% covered. And you'll see why. You just have to paint it so it's got some kind of coverage on there. Don't put it on too thick, because in the drying process, if it's too thick, then the acrylic paint will bubble up, and that's not the look we're trying to achieve here. We just want something that looks old, rustic, shabby chic, antiqued, and that's the look we're going for, not the bubble up today. I mean, I'm sure there's a time when you might want a bubbled up look, but today's not it, and this ain't the technique. So, okay. So it's important when you do this to only go in one direction, okay? Keep the strokes going in the same direction. To give it a consistent look like it's wood planks, you need to go in the same direction all the time. So then let's heat this up. If you put a thin layer on, it dries quicker. That's another reason why you want to keep it thin. Not too thin that you can see right through it and there's barely any color, but enough like this. See, it's not covered all the way. It's not solid brown. And you can see the strokes. That's why it's important to only go one way. Okay, so that's pretty dry right there, pretty dry. So now we're going to take another paintbrush and we're going to put on the lighter coat. Okay, and this one does not have to be as covered as the brown. This is just going to be like real sparingly painted on. And this also you do not want to put on too thick. You want to make it look like it's been there a while and it's starting to chip off. Maybe it needs some paint, some new paint on it. And you know, like somebody hasn't been keeping up the grounds in this farm. And again, it does not have to be covered 100%, but it is important if you're going to make it look like a wood fence or an old door or an old sign to keep the strokes going the same way. That's really important. And you'll see why when it's all done. Okay, so you have to make sure at this point that this coat is dry now. So let's dry this coat. Okay, so before you put on the scoring board, you want to make sure that your paint is completely dry, because this is the part that's going to go down, face down on the scoreboard. So you don't want to put this down while the paint's still wet and then get acrylic paint all over your scoreboard. I mean, it's easy to clean up, but if you can avoid that, just make sure your paint is dry. So let's remove this and bring in the scoreboard. And I do my scoring every ½ inch. If you were doing like a scrapbook page, maybe every inch. If you're doing I've done Father's Day cards, I do it every ½ inch. And it just is proportioned to the card. So then I just go every ½ inch. Okay, so we're doing every ½ inch, all the way from the 0 to the 12 inch. Our last score will be at 11½ inches. Or if you're doing 8½ by 11, it will be 11 inches. Or whatever size you're doing, it will be a ½ inch shorter than your page. The last score mark will be, okay, so we're at 11½ inches. Okay, so can you see the score marks? Yeah, you can see the score marks all across. Oops, forgot to put that back. Okay, so let's bring the wax paper back in. And this is when you're going to use your dark ink. You can use black, brown. Black or brown work better. I've not used any others, but that just gives it a more authentic look. I'm going to use the StazOn brown. Oops. Okay, and then you just rub it in the direction of the score marks. And what you end up with is this. See, I went sideways here and see how that mark, but everything else is done straight up and down. The paint, the base coat, the top coat, and the inking is all done in the same direction. And I like it because you can get these marks here that make it look like maybe something's worn on it, or it's worn down to the black, or you know, oil or whatever. It just makes it look really rustic. And so it started like this, and with a few coats of paint and some drying and some scoring and some inking, it looks like this. So I'll try to make a project with it and see if I can't get something to make this from. Okay, bye.